We're all astrologers. And when people ask me what that involves, I say, well, I draw up astrological charts for clients and I interpret them. But when non-astrologers are asked what astrologers do, they usually assume that we're stargazers and that we're looking up in the sky and doing a bit of magic involving stars. And in a way, that's true. The only reason that any of us are astrologers today are because our ancestors were fascinated by the night sky and wanted to understand it. And of course, as astrologers today, we look down towards our desk with a printed chart on it, or these days we might look directly ahead to the screen with the chart on the screen. But not many of us look up to the sky to see what's going on. And indeed, I recall going to a local astrology group talk one pleasant summer evening, and in the discussion, we were talking about a Jupiter-Moon conjunction that was happening that day. When the talk had finished, we went outside, looked up into the sky, and we saw this. Wow, said somebody. Look at that moon. What's that star by it? Oh, I think it's Venus, said somebody else. And then some smart Alex said, well, you know that Jupiter-Moon conjunction we've just been discussing? I think that's it. And of course it was, which just goes to show that even a group of seasoned astrologers weren't connecting with the chart that we've been viewing with what was happening in the night sky. And this isn't surprising. If you live in London, for example, you'll find it really hard to make out stars with the naked eye because we live in a world full of light pollution. But even so, our art as astrologers still depends on what's going on in the night sky. And if we understand that, I think it adds another string to our bow as astrologers. So imagine you're giving your client, let's call her Sue, a reading. You've cast her chart, which is shown on this slide, and you point out some interesting things. There's a very close Sun-Venus conjunction at North Aquarius, tightly opposite Mars. Saturn on the MC, a Moon-Jupiter conjunction at the end of Gemini. So you delineate these and give Sue an insightful reading. But then she says, well, that's really interesting. But when you say I've got a Jupiter-Moon conjunction in Gemini, what does that mean? I mean, I know what the moon looks like, but what does Gemini look like? Where is it in the sky? And that question would flummox many of us. You might answer, well, Gemini is the name we give to a particular section of the sky. But could you say, well, you see that tree in the garden opposite? Well, that row of houses between the tree and the end of the row, look up a bit, and that bit of sky is Gemini at the moment. But because the Earth rotates, in a couple of hours, we'll be looking at a different bit of sky between the tree and the end of the block, and that bit of the sky will be called Cancer. Now, in this chart, Sue was born in West Wales in an area pretty much free of light pollution at 2 in the morning. At the moment she was born, if her mum had gone outside and it was a clear night, this is what she would have seen from her south-facing garden. And it's a magnificent sight. I'm sure you can all recognise the moon and possibly Orion's belt below it, but it's not easy to make sense of the rest of it unless you're a seasoned astronomer as well as an astrologer. But you can make sense of it thanks to a lovely piece of free software called Stellarium. In fact, this screenshot was taken using Stellarium, and as well as showing you what the night sky looks like at any given date and time, in any given place, or even the daytime sky, it also helps you out by explaining what the constellations are, what the stars are, which of those bright dots are planets, and so on. Click a few buttons, and this pretty but rather confusing image becomes a lot clearer. So now it shows you the compass points. We're looking south here. The traditional patterns of the constellations and their names. It shows you the names of the bright stars, the names of planets, and I've also added in the ecliptic as a green line here. And now we can see Sue's Moon-Jupiter conjunction, and we can see Saturn on the MC. Let's zoom in a little. Saturn is right next to the bright star Regulus, the heart of the lion, and due south, which is actually the definition of midheaven. And we can also see the Moon-Jupiter conjunction. Of course, we can only see those planets that are above the horizon, so in the 7th to 12th houses, and we can't see Pluto with the naked eye. But we can clearly see that our familiar astrological chart really does match what's in the sky. You can also see that Mars is quite clearly in the constellation of Cancer, but our chart says Leo, just as the Moon and Jupiter seem to be close to the start of Gemini in the Stellarium screenshot here, but the chart puts them right at the end, almost in Cancer. That's precession, and that's why signs and constellations share the same names, but no longer match up, and that's really clear when you use a program like Stellarium. So I hope I've convinced you that there's a lot of joy to be had in looking at the night sky and relating that to the charts that you work with. I'm running a workshop at the Faculty of Astrological Studies in Oxford this year on the Sunday, the 17th of August in the afternoon. It's a 2-hour workshop, and I'll show you how to use Stellarium as an astrologer. When you start up Stellarium, unfortunately, it's quite unintuitive. This screenshot here shows you what it looks like when you start it up. It's just the sky as it looks wherever you happen to be at whatever time it happens to be. I started it up during the daytime, which is all I can see is the sun, the moon, and a field. There's no menu, there's no buttons, just a picture of the field. And that's why I'm running the workshop, to go through everything step by step and show you how to get the most out of it as an astrologer. Now, I'd recommend downloading this free program in advance. You can get it from the web address shown here, www.stellarium.org, and it's available for Windows, Mac, or Linux. There's also a mobile version for tablets and phones, but that version doesn't have all the features of the main Stellarium, which you will need. So you will need to bring your laptop and use a non-mobile version for the workshop, although I will be looking at the mobile version at the end as well. So I hope to see you in glorious Oxford in August. Thank you very much.